We've made it to December, last month of 2020. This month, I'll be focusing classes around Yoga Hour Sequence 2. Sequence 2 has a pretty big focus on core stability and strength as well as balance. Anytime we are doing balance poses, one foot on the floor, whatever it is, feel free, of course, you're in your own space, to step closer to a wall for support against your back, support with a hand, sometimes like a chair, hand on a chair, that sort of thing. So that's maybe the overall prop to think about as you come to classes throughout the month. Like, how can I balance myself with a little support? Always a good idea. After class today, if you have a couple of minutes, stick around and we'll do our Let's Begin monthly chat. I'm sort of alternating this Let's Begin chat from the different classes that I teach. So this month, we'll do it right after this class, and then later in the month, it's on the schedule to do the progress check-in. So that's a good time to hear about what's coming up for the month and what questions you might have surrounding that, and just in general to check in and chat. The last thing I'll say before we get started is our December mantra is sit, stay, heal. So Rita was commenting as we were coming in on the mandala. You're not going to be able to see this well, but this is a little creative coloring that I did. One thing that helps me come into my monthly mantras is to take a little time to create it on the page. So that's something that we'll talk about later. But sit, stay, heal. If you're not already there, take a comfortable seat on your yoga mat. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears. Try to get a little taller from your waist to the shoulders, and then relax the shoulders down, but keep that extra bit of length in your spine. Gently lower the eyes. Gaze low or closed. In that mantra piece, sit, representing, of course, this seat, but speaking more fully of each asana. So as we come pose by pose, stay in the pose. Through your breath, through your intention, through your actions in each pose. Look for ways to feel your best, and that represents the heel. I always find the more that I can come to the mat and do that, the easier it is to find the sit, stay, and heel off the mat as well. Here, just a few more rounds of breath, turning in, preparing yourself for this time of movement and practice, both for yourself and in this virtual group. Bow the chin down to the chest here. Rock the right ear over towards the right shoulder. Chin to the chest, left ear to left shoulder. I've enjoyed just the constant rocking back and forth to warm up lately, so just keep going. Sort of a slow half moon shape, left to right. we'll keep chin down to the chest. Take both hands behind your head and give it just a little push of the head up into the hands. Release the hands, lift the head. You can open the eyes here and take a little twist to the right. And specific for today's class, we'll see a lot of focus or emphasis on our belly down back bends. Always one of my favorite things to find strength. Come back to the center, lean your right hand way out to the side, take the left arm up and a little bit over in that crescent. Look up towards the sky. And then look down towards your right hand and curl the shoulders down. Think more like a cat, rounded back here. Pull away. Change to look back up, open the chest, open the shoulders, and back to your center. Take it on over to the other side. Lean the left hand out. Walk far enough that you can take a flat palm. And opposite arm up towards the sky and a little crescent over. Turn to look at the bottom hand. Cat curl in the upper back. And then again, open, look up. Inhale, let's take both hands to the sky. And lower the arms down. Release the breath. Okay. Come over to all fours and we'll start there. So as you find all fours, hands right underneath our shoulders, knees right underneath the hips. Spread all 10 fingers wide. Try to put a little more pressure on the thumb, the first finger, the inner edge of the hand than the rest. And I want you to just rock slightly forward and back. So mobility, range of motion in the wrist here. Just very slightly rock forward and back. And then stop in your neutral position. And can you pop up to fingertips, sometimes called ridge tops. So fingertips gives a little more strengthening for the wrist there. And again, rock a little forward and back. And you want that crease in the back of the wrist to be lined up pretty parallel to the top edge of the mat. So every time I rock more forward, I see all the creases in the wrist. And I'm trying mostly to make that go straight ahead with the front of the mat. One more thing with the hands here. Go back down to flat palms and turn your fingers out to the side. You can stop there or turn your hands even further so your fingers face back towards your knees. And then do that little rock again, forward and back. Grip the earth underneath all 10 fingers. And turn the hands all the way around. Downward facing dog, tuck the toes and lift the hips. Here in down dog, pedal out the feet, give a little shake of the head, yes and no. And we'll see this pose again for sure, but let's go back down to our knees and good old cat and cow. Move the spine now back and forth. With that little extra emphasis of how we can best set up, hands right under the shoulders, fingers themselves being some support so that it feels pretty good on all fours here for a somewhat extended period of time. Belly down back bends are, of course, we're not using our hands, but a whole lot of the setup, getting in and out, does rely on placing the hands well, strong wrists, strong shoulders. And come back to a neutral spine and knees all the way together. So smash your knees together and then also the heels together. And notice that if you squeeze your heels in, does that allow you a little more muscular squeeze in the thighs as well? For me, it does. Look a little forward of the hands rather than straight down. And that squeeze in the legs is what we'll continue to work with as we get into belly down back bends today. For now, lift the right leg up and back in line with the spine. Flex the foot, point your toes down to the floor. Imagine that it has the left leg to squeeze into, and you're still working thighs in towards each other. Extend the left arm out in front. And as you take the left arm out, don't let the shoulders and belly droop down. Try to get higher off the mat. And then lower left hand, lower your right knee. Downward facing dog. Change the pressure and focus in hands and wrist here for a moment. Down dog. And then come back down, hands and knees. Squeeze the heels in, squeeze the thighs in. Look a little forward so you feel strength in the low core, leaning all the way out to the head. And lift your left leg up and back, flex the foot, point the toe down. And of course that toe down is helping us to see the rotation of the hips square towards the mat. Oftentimes much easier to look at the furthest part of the extremity to see how the body is moving. Extend the right arm out in front. Opposite arm and leg here. Continue to lengthen the tailbone. Keep picking your navel up into the spine. And lower down. Stretch again to downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana here, inverted V shape. Purpose of this pose is to have an inversion in the practice. Your hips are higher than the heart here. Helps to solidify strength and opening, length in the spine. Gradually stretching the legs as well. And then lower your knees down, child's pose. So as you press your hips back, maybe turn the palms up and give your hands a little bit of a break. And walk the hands a little bit over to the right side. Side body stretch here from the left hand back towards the left hip. And walk the hands across the center on over to the second side. And come back to the middle. Downward facing dog. From down dog, we'll start to get into some bigger movements here. Lift the right leg all the way up to the sky. Lift, lift, lift. And let's step it forward in between our hands. Take a few steps until you get your full stride there. Knee over ankle, fingertips in line with our toes. All right, lift the back leg until it is straight. Firm the muscle to the bone, like reach back, feel your left leg. Squeeze in. Squeeze the left glute as well. The back leg here, just like the legs that we want to use in our belly down back bends. I'll just say it a few times so you're thinking about it. Right hand up. And then lower the right hand to the inside of your foot. Spin the back heel down. Down dog lunge. Walk the hands out towards the left corner of your mat. Try to use your right shoulder to nuzzle right into the inner right thigh or knee and push them gently out to the side until you have even more stretch along the inner thigh. And then bring the hands back in, around to the low lunge, and step it all the way back to down dog. Second side, lift your left leg up into the air. And step it all the way forward into your low lunge. A little helping hand, maybe through the back knee in the beginning. Do all of the things until you find your full stride and length. And then lift the left arm high. Add the twist. Couple of breaths. Lower the hand to the inside of your foot. Spin the back heel down. So again, heel to heel in alignment. And walk the hands out towards the right corner of your yoga mat for down dog lunge. We had those different hand placements in the beginning. Maybe you like to do this more from ridge tops. Just lift the wrist up. Beyond, you could also say spider fingers. Can give a little more room in the shoulders. Sometimes when I'm working to create more space in my hips, if I can get more space actually in the upper part of the trunk and the shoulders, the body starts to relate to that opening down below as well. Walk the hands back in around the front leg and step it back, down dog. Here we go, come forward to plank pose. In plank pose, squeeze the heels in, squeeze the inner thighs, strengthen the glutes, lengthen the tailbone, tone the belly, look forward. All of this work and excitement that happens at the top of the plank, keep hold of it, lower down to your mat. Stretch your arms back behind you, palms to the sky, and here we go, lift up. Shalabhasana. Try to keep your breath as even as possible. I know that's hard, belly's down. Keep firing up the muscles and the whole back chain of the body. Like even squeeze the triceps in towards each other. And exhale, lower down. Push your hips back towards your heels in child's pose. And then roll to sit up on your feet. Pull the knees all the way in. So you're sitting on flat feet. Interlace your hands, flip the palms, and reach up towards the sky. Some of you have heard this little asana lecture from me before. I'm going to say it again. Twist to your right. And then come back to the center and twist to the left. For probably the first 10 years that I practiced yoga, I was taught not to squeeze my butt in just about any pose, but certainly in a back bend. Styles of practice that I used were all like release. And for 10 years, I had back problems when I practiced yoga, but I was 20 something and I thought, no big deal. I can be sore for a couple of days, but that is not a sustainable practice as we age. I started experimenting and changing the way that I practiced yoga and teachers that I went to. And sure enough, just squeeze your butt, get strong in your thighs, and just about every problem goes away, at least for me. So it's worth a try. Get strong and then stretch. That's the overall gist. Let's go back, all fours. It's really quite simple, right? It's like, oh, why didn't I just ever try that before? But I practiced lots of styles of yoga that were like, you do what the teacher says. I think you do what your body says. Check it out, try different things. Do downward facing dog here again. Step your right foot forward into your low lunge. Come upright to high lunge. And then when you use those few simple steps just over and over, so we're squeezing strong in the glutes, strong in the thighs here, everything coming in. Lift the arms up. And you can see how you can get more length in the spine from your strength. Hold on to your left wrist and lean towards the right a little bit. And then come back to your center. Keep the hands exactly as they are and step forward all the way up to the top of the mat. Press your feet down evenly and lean again to your right. And then come back to the center. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Step back, downward facing dog. Step your left foot all the way forward to your lunge. Feet about hip distance apart, so you're on two separate railroad tracks. Come upright. Get stronger in the legs. Squeeze towards the midline. And then from that squeeze, push out in each direction and lift the arms overhead. Hold on to the right wrist and lean to the left. Woo! That took me down. And then come back to the center. And then that huge step forward. And that big step forward is hard. And it's a sign of stability in our hips. If you need a few steps in, that's something we know we can work with. Come back to the middle, and then exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. This time, step back to plank position. From plank, squeeze the heels, glutes, thighs, all that strong. And do a little rock forward. So your shoulders go slightly past the line of the wrist and back. If you're like, heck no, that's not happening today, try it with your knees down. And can you kind of hop your knees forward and back, and that'll take off some and make that a little more doable. Or you just stay in plank. Rock again, forward and back. And one more time, forward and back. Let's lie flat down onto the mat. Try your feet as wide as the mat apart. Stretch your arms back. And lift everything up. And notice, does that work better for you? So I like my feet together, but maybe you don't. And as long as we keep the strength, squeeze in, glutes, thighs, try to lift the thighs rather than lift the feet. And then lay it all down and push back to child's pose. Twisted child's pose. Lift up just enough to take the right arm under the left side and sit back. Undo. Go to your second side. Take the left arm under the right. Undo. Downward facing dog. Now, walk your hands backwards to your feet. So bend your knees and walk back. Bring the hands to the hips, point the elbows to the sky, push down into your feet, come all the way up to standing. You can stay where you are on the mat, keep your feet about hip distance apart. Let's try it there first. Arms straight out in front of you, bend the knees, sit low, chair pose. And we're thinking chair pose with the torso down. You can look down right in between your feet. But then still try to lift your arms so that your upper arms are framing your ears. That's a lot of work in the spine and then the back. Stay with it. Change to a twisted pose, palms together. And take your left elbow to the outside of the right knee. You can stay lifted or try to crunch all the way down, elbow to touch the outside of the leg. Tone and turn in the belly. And then untwist, stand all the way back up. Stretch the arms straight out in front of you. And again, sit low and think butt straight back here. We're not trying to drop it down, just straight back. Lower the chest pretty darn close to the thighs. They can even touch if you'd like. Palms together. Twist to your second side. Right elbow to the outside of the left leg. Slowly tone and turn all the way through the spine. Untwist, stand up, shake out the legs a little bit. One more form of Utkatasana, of chair pose here. Try it with your feet closer together, see what happens. Interlace your hands behind your back. Nice bend in the elbows here. And as you squeeze the elbows in, can you squeeze the base of your palms together as well? As you squeeze the palms and the elbows in, dig the knuckles into the low back, right at the sacrum, and try to lift your chest. And then keeping that, bend the knees and add your chair pose to it. Lower your head down towards your knees. As your head goes lower, stretch your arms straight and up towards the sky. So chair pose with hands bound. Keep trying to squeeze the heel of the hand in. Come out of the pose, release the arms, all the way up to the sky, big full reach. That opening across the front side of the body always feels nice after all of the strengthening contraction along the back. Exhale, forward fold. And we're at downward facing dog again. Let's try that hand clasp behind our back again. Come forward to plank. And with control, lower flat down against your yoga mat. A little trick that I think goes a long way. Lift up one leg. Try to stretch it a little further back and then set it down. Lift up the other leg, stretch back, set it down. Hands back behind you. And we almost always do these series in the beginning of my classes, right? So it's not something new, it's just a little extra emphasis here today. Interlace the hands behind your back, try to squeeze the elbows in, dig the knuckles into the sacrum. It's that upside down triangular bone that meets low back down to our tailbone. And then try to peel your chest and your legs up off of the ground as you stretch the arms straight back behind you. Breathe. Lower down and release. Push back to child's pose. And then lift your torso so you're sitting again back on your heels. But this time, tuck your toes and sit back on tucked toes. So we get a stretch in our feet. Take the arms up to the sky here. And then bend at your elbows and try to hold on, hands to either side. If your shoulders are a little tighter, the elbows will be more forward. Do your best to take the elbows up, 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 and back. Sometimes holding on to each side, I notice I get a little more than I might if I didn't have hold. I see wrist holds happening as well, and that works. Okay. We get to release. Come forward, pat out your feet. Stretch it again to downward facing dog. Let's go right leg back up into the sky. And step it all the way through for your low lunge. Spin the back heel down, line up heel to heel. And lift your torso, hands to your hips here. Face the long edge of your mat with your shoulders and hips. As you look down, kind of survey the scene. Get strong in the belly. Enjoy the room still in the breath, though. And then look a little further down to your thighs. Place your back hand on your back leg, your thigh, and give it a little extra push back. And that will make your butt a little broader to the back, right? And then can you take your front hand on the inner knee, right up towards the inner thigh, and try to massage it down. And as you do that, go a little lower in the pose. Then just say, okay, I got this. Stay with it. Extend your arms all the way out in either direction. Gaze out over the front fingertips. Are you strong in your glutes? I say that because I have to tell myself almost every time, squeeze, especially back glute. It will forget to fire. Turn your palms up and lift the right arm to the sky. Little back bend there. Lower the hands on either side of the front foot. Pick up your back heel, step back to plank. Lower down. Stretch your arms straight out in front of you. Can you here hold on to your elbows? If you're like, no, that's crazy in that position, try holding on to your wrists. And then do your belly down, back bend again, lift up. Elbows or wrist. Lift your upper arm bones. It's as hard for me. Lift your thighs. Have the purpose of squeezing the heels in, even if there's space between them. And then lower it all the way down and push back. Change to downward facing dog. Lift your left leg high. And step it all the way through. Warrior 2 here, spin the back heel down. Take your time, build it upright, hands to the waist first. To me, that helps us bring the focus across so shoulders are over hips. When the arms immediately go out, I notice most students are so used to looking over that front arm that their shoulders, and they're doing a twist in your torso. Try to stay open to the side. That's what that's really all about. Flip the palm, reverse warrior, try left arm high. Lift, 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 up and back. And then like a little cartwheel down to your mat. Pick up the back heel, step back to plank. Lower flat down against your yoga mat. This one's my favorite just for the name, superhero pose. Extend the arms out in front. Like hitchhiker thumbs straight up into the sky. Push the knife edge, the pinky edge of your hand down and pull your chest up. So feet and arms are down, but you're already doing that lift in the spine. Keep squeezing the glutes and now lift your legs. Squeeze the heels in. Now lift your arms. Look forward, look past your fingertips. Stay up. You've got it, you've got it, you've got it. And then lower down. Push back. Always feels nice to do that little child's pose afterwards. Back gets to round in the opposite way. And then come up to all fours and do a few rounds of cat and cow. Inhale, pull your chest forward, eyes and tailbone up. The exhale, use pressure down into the hands and knees, round your back. Like someone's punching you in the belly. Keep lifting, lifting, lifting to get away from it. And then one more round. Inhale, chest forward and through, eyes and tailbone up. And exhale, round. Okay, we're going to downward facing dog as a transition here. And then bend the knees and walk your hands backwards to the feet. It's a little thing, that walking backwards, for many folks, it's better in the hips, hamstrings, a little safer, but it also gives us the added bonus of finding the agility and mobility in hands, wrists, and shoulders. Come all the way up. A little shake out. Okay, how are we doing so far? Cheers to that. Take a drink of water as needed. Take the feet wide. Use the long edge of your mat. We're going to start to use all of this core strength, back support. Leanne's getting a little bonus back support there, or something like it. To get into our balance poses, turn the right leg out. Extend the arms. We're starting with triangle pose. Bring the right hand down, left arm up to the sky. And from triangle pose, transition to half moon. So I want you to look down at the right foot. Bend the right knee a lot. Heel toe the back foot in until you can find all of your weight and balance to right foot, right hand. I've got my bottom hand in that ridge top, giving me just a couple of extra inches, and top arm to the sky. Make your standing leg as straight as it'll go, knowing that you can have a bend in the knee so that the floor stays a little closer and hamstrings aren't too overtaxed. And then very slowly, can you find triangle pose again? Lower the back leg, Doesn't have to be just one movement. Kind of heel toe it out until you can again stretch the bottom leg straighter, open the chest and look up. Inhale and come all the way up to standing. Second side, turn your feet. If you're using your yoga block, yeah, switch it to the other side. Reach as far as you can to the left arm down, along your leg or the floor or a block, tarp arm up to the sky. Sit and stay in this pose first, and then transition, hand to the hip, look down, bend the left knee a lot, and make the stance shorter until there's room. Move the left fingertips out, lift the right leg. Think of the lifted leg just like you do in those belly down back bends. Squeeze the glute, get firm in the thigh, and that will help you draw the strength up into the core. And strengthen the legs and core are going to help us have a little reward across the chest, shoulders here as we find our balance. And then slowly bring it all the way back into your triangle pose. Push down and out through your feet and come all the way upright. Turn the feet parallel to one another, fingertips to touch. Ready, step or jump all the way in. Fingertips together, bend the knees, step or jump all the way back out. So in these yoga jumping jacks, fingertips together. If the impact on the knees is too much, you step. Otherwise, try the jump. Bend the knees one more time, jump out. And it's a sense of that strengthening in the core, squeezing the thighs in towards each other the entire time. Fingertips together, bend the knees, and jump in. That's great. Extend the arms straight out in either direction. Pick up your right knee. This is where you might need to move and find a little more balance against a wall or a chair. Hold around the front of the knee. Hold behind the thigh, under the thigh, I should say, and straighten the leg. Kick towards the camera if you're going straight towards me. Bend the knee, and can you find your balance again from where you started without the hands? Yeah, lower it down. Second side, go through all of the stages. Extend the arms out. Nice and tall through the crown of the head. Lift your left knee up. And I like to keep my foot flexed, thinking of the flex and the muscles of the thigh as well. And then hold to the front of the shin. Get the leg a little bit higher so you come into your passive range of motion. It's usually a little bit more. And then you can loop under the thigh and kick the leg out. If you're going for broke here, keep the leg out and take the arms out at the same time. And then bring it all back in. Foot to the ground. Little shake out. Okay. Kick your right heel. I'm gonna give you guys the back view. Kick your right heel towards your butt and take your right hand to hold on. Just good old quad stretch here. Squeeze your knees in towards each other. Think of the front of your hips moving towards the front of your mat. Other hand straight up to the sky. Keeping the long line, so I don't want you to hinge forward here. I want you to think straight up and down, as if the front side of your body is lying down on a yoga mat and it can't tilt further in. lift your back leg away from your seat. Lift, lift, lift. Spread your toes and kick the top of your foot into your hand. So very upright dancer's pose. And then bring it all back in, foot to the ground. Give it a little shake. Second side, quad stretch to start. Kick your left heel to your seat. Squeeze the knees in. Move the hips a little bit forward. As you kick the hips just a little bit forward, same time, kick the heel back so it ends up keeping you neutral. Other hand, if it's free, straight up towards the sky. Again, imagining that you are lying flat down on your yoga mat and that you have to stay up and down here. You can't lean forward. And release. And then I hope not too much of a stretch to see how that pose is the same as bow pose. So if you get your heel 3 inches away from the body here, you should be able to do it-ish. I know it's different. Planes of the body, we change them when you're in bow pose. I think a lot of folks get flat down on the mat and they're just like, wait, I've lost all lift. You've done all of the lifts, all of the things. We've slowly worked through it so that we can see it all come together here. So let's do down dog again. It's my little pep talk to say that we can do this. Come forward and lie flat down on your belly and create the exact same pose that you just had to do, but now you don't have to worry about balance. That's something. Stretch the arms out in front of you and lift the chest. So push pinky fingers into the mat, thumbs up to the sky, lift the chest. And then kick your right heel towards your seat and take your right hand. I'm holding on to the outside because I think that's easiest. Maybe you think it's easier to take the hand to the inside and flip the thumb up. You could try that too. And then keeping the left leg on the ground, can you lift your right thigh up and kick your right heel back? And then lower down and release. Both arms back out in front, pinky fingers to the ground, elbows off the ground, shoulders way off the ground, chest off the ground. Kick the left heel to your seat. Take the left hand to hold on to your foot. Like we did before, try to squeeze the knees towards each other, not bowing out to the side. And then kick the foot into the hand and use your thighs, just like we did in all the other belly down back bends, to try to lift higher. Don't make the foot do all the work. Lift from your thigh. That's a way bigger muscle, right? And then lower it down. And we'll sit back to child's pose. Give it a couple of breaths. Come up to kneeling. A couple of weeks ago in class, if you took it live or in a recording, we worked on camel pose a lot. I'd like you to take your favorite variation, whether it's hands starting at the hips and leaning back, or starting with your hips low, holding onto your feet. Squeeze the elbows in. Lift the chest. If you're starting from lower, you lift through the thighs. If you're starting from higher, you keep doing that same squeeze that we've done in the glutes and thighs. Double chin and move the chest up and back. Hold on to the heels if it's available to you. And you either safely take hands back to the hips to come up, or you sit your butt down to your heels to come out of the pose. Come over to all fours to neutralize from camel. And then do plank pose. I always just need a couple of breaths, regain. Sometimes I get a little dizzy in camel pose. It's something that happens pretty typically in that pose. If it's overwhelming for you, you should find a less severe way to practice. The double chins definitely help. And lower flat down to the yoga mat. Legs up and back, up and back. Okay, take the hands back behind you, turn the palms up, little lift in the chest. Let's try to come into bow pose, both feet from this angle. Bend at the knees, reach back, hold on to one foot. Reach back, hold on to the other foot. And if it takes some maneuvering to get into the pose, it takes some maneuvering. It just is what it is. It doesn't have to come in one clean sweep. Lift everything that you can simultaneously up away from the mat. In some ways, have a closed chain of the body, right? This full circle. So there's a little bit more push that can happen. Push your feet into the hands. Literally lift the hands higher to take the whole body higher. And then slowly release. Feet flat. Give yourself a pillow for your forehead with your hands, and then just let your hips shake a little bit from side to side. Take it back to child's pose. And then through all fours, good old pigeon pose. Bring your right knee towards your right wrist, heel towards the left. Walk your back leg out until you can come down to your forearms. If you prefer to come all the way down to the forehead and stretch the arms out, that's there too. Even in this pose today, think of the legs in the strong actions that they were in our belly down back bends. Squeeze the inner thighs towards each other, squeeze the glutes so you feel like a little lift of support in the pelvic floor. Because as much as we always need strength in the body, we also always need some release in the body. Now, this pose, I'm going to try to relax the muscles a little bit. Soften. Feel the sort of sink, if you will. That's especially important for all of us, male and female, as we age, being able to release in the pelvic floor. But we'll just put a double check, plus for females as well. You've got to be able to find enough release there. Okay, go back up to the hands. Let's go downward facing dog. And then second side for pigeon, do the strong pose first. Knee towards the wrist, heel towards the right side. Squeeze in the thighs even as you walk the back leg further back so you have fully even weight side to side, front to back. Be down on the forearms or further. And then start to soften. I want those two things to be as different as possible. It's still subtle. You're not going to see it a whole lot in the outer form. We're sitting in the pose. But how we use the pose can help us heal in different ways. Sometimes for more strength, sometimes for softening. Okay, to get out of this side, walk your hands up and then just lean over towards the left until you can bring both feet to the front. Soles of the feet to your yoga mat. Take your hands to the crease of your knees. And I like to be heels off the ground here, toes still on the ground, and get that big lift in the front torso, broad across the collarbone. Lift just one leg up and then match the other leg to it. Squeeze your legs as close together here as you were doing in your belly down back bends. For me, my heels often touch, thighs often touch, so I'm going to bring them all the way in. If you tend to keep a little bit of space in your belly down back bends, try leaving a little space here as well. Just want to see if that translates for us. And then can you take the arms out? And the answer might be no, that makes me fall down, and you just keep hold. If possible, arms out. And then oh wait, what if I did squeeze the legs all the way together and the heels all the way together, and this plane of the body doesn't help? Or vice versa, does it need to open now? And then lower the feet down and change to Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet together, knees out to the side. I just always want to encourage us to try just a little bit of different thing in poses. It cannot be a bad thing to do a little self-research, right? Fold over, push the feet in, extend the knees out. I absolutely think of myself as a teacher as much as I am a guide, but you are really the number one teacher. It has to be you. And in that way, we're just working collaboratively. Okay, we're going to come back up, back to where we were. Hold on behind the knees, try to lift through the chest. Take the feet off the ground again in this boat pose, Navasana. Maybe arms up. And then can the legs go straighter? Make the legs as straight, as firm as we do in the belly down back bends. Oh my goodness, maybe a little help from the hands again as you were finding our way into that, just tinkering around. Looking good. Lower it down. That's a hard one. Soles of the feet together, knees out to the side. And one more time, just lean forward. I need this to release in the hip flexor after boat pose. It's hard not to make the hip flexor do some of the work with us. Okay, and then come back up. I think this is the last really hard thing I'll ask you to do. Lie down onto your back. I'm going to walk us through the different stages. So for most support, take your hands and sit on them. And then legs straight up to the sky. glue your feet together. Good old leg raises works our lower abdominal strength. Lower the legs 2 inches and pause. And then 6 inches and pause. Can you make your mid to low back move down towards the mat? And I'm not saying there isn't just a tiny bit of a lift there, but the energy, the action is down still in the mid to low back. And lower the feet maybe a little bit more. And take them all the way back up to the sky. Okay, so you can stay there, the support of the hands under the seat, and do it all over again. Or more challenge, take the hands behind the head. If the hands are behind the head, you can choose. Keep the shoulders and head down, or even more challenge, lift the head up, shoulders up. And let's go again, a couple of inches, and then a whole lot of inches. And can your mid to low back, Lordic spine still energetically move down towards the ground? If it starts to come up, that's your stop point for the legs. A little bit lower. Ooh, my whole body's shaking. And all the way back up. Breath in and breath out. We're going to try it one more time in case you want to move how you're using hands or body. Here we go. Let's give it a go. A little bit. A lot of times we do this with constantly moving legs, like finding the sit, the stay in the posture. Oh, just a little bit more. Squeeze the heels in, squeeze your butt, squeeze your thighs. Did you forget? And then pull the knees into the chest and give yourself a hug. Rock it from side to side. Take the hands out to a T shape and lower both knees over to the right. Breathe, let it be. Take the knees across the center and on over to the second side. And back to the middle. Soles of the feet on the yoga mat. Reach your hands down to brush close to your heels. And then bridge pose. Press the shoulders, head, feet down, and lift your hips up. Take in all the lessons. Squeeze the glutes, squeeze the thighs. The payoff of all those belly down back bends. It gets to open here. Interlace your hands underneath you. Roll the shoulders a little more up and in. Keep the strength, the back chain of the body really fired up to keep giving you more lift. The chin should tuck slightly towards the chest. For some, if the chest is coming in on you, you've got to open up the neck a little bit more, the chin a little bit more. Release the hands, lower your hips down. Have the knees fall in towards each other and let the back sort of neutralize there for a few breaths. Okay, last thing before Shavasana. I didn't mention, I forgot that I was taking us here at the very end of class. Let's try an inversion. You could shift yourself to a wall for legs up the wall. You could simply lift the legs up, holding some strength for a moment. You could rock the feet all the way overhead and take the hands to hold your low back. Keep the toes way overhead for most safety and ease in head, neck, and shoulders. So it's kind of a half shoulder stand. For shoulder stand, you slowly would use your hands to lift your hips more over the line of the shoulders. Again, for safety, you could always keep the feet more piked. So much that goes into this shoulder stand. Go with any of those gentle inversion options. If those forms of inversion are new to you and you're more lifted, stay for just 30 to 60 seconds max. If your bum is all the way against the ground, you could stay longer. And if you are still up, slowly make your way down. Unless you shifted all the way to legs up the wall and would like to stay there for the stillness of Shavasana, please do. Otherwise, I'd like us to find ourselves in Shavasana. Unwind, unwind, unwind. Find stillness. Sit, stay, heal. Slowly now, returning back, a little bit of movement. Deepen the connection back to breath and movement. And take your time to come all the way to a seated position. Keep your gaze low or your eyes closed. And then draw the palms together and the thumbs to the sternum. I like to close our time for practice in the sound of Om. sound of Om is said to be the sound of beginning. So I always find it a nice close at the end of the class so that we can open to the next thing. Let's do it together. Empty out your breath. Take a deep breath in. And bow in deep honor to yourself, gratitude to yourself, each other in this practice. Namaste.